Okay.
What size are they?
So we've got a problem because when Gary was moderating these, he always had some good stories, but Chris and I don't have really good stories, so we'll get these batteries changed out. So if you need that last bit of coffee because you got up early this morning to drive here, feel free to grab that, and we'll get this transitioned. Okay, how's that? That sounds like it's working. Great. So Clayton went through the program, talked about that, and thanked the sponsors. Before we get into the meat of the program, I just wanted to give a little bit of an overview. Both some of the things that we'll talk about today, but also some of the resources that we have available out there on the table. So obviously you've all got the program. Some of you that came in early didn't get a proceedings, but anyone not have a proceedings in their hand? Okay, great. Okay, many of you may have picked up or have one before, a Southern Crop, our Southern Forage's Pocket Guide. This is actually a page out of that. This is table 15. You can actually see where I did some scratches on there. We've got two talks today that will focus on fertilizing alfalfa and nutrient uptake in alfalfa. So in that pocket guide, there's a table there, table 15, that talks about the nutrient needs of forage crops. Not just the needs, but the uptake, what they're taking off your field. So you see on here, alfalfa's taking off 255 pounds of nitrogen if you've got a 5-ton crop. But nitrogen, alfalfa makes its own nitrogen, so you're not having to pay for that. That's part of what you pay for in buying and getting the seed. We've got 60 pounds of phosphate, 240 pounds of potash. So just kind of reminding you, prepping you for the next talks that will come up. They'll go into a lot more detail. But some people have said, well, you know, I'm going to get more alfalfa than that, or maybe I'm not going to get quite as much as that. How do I do the calculations? You can do some hand calculations, but I found out from Greg Aston with Allied Seed, you can get an app called Ag PhD Fertilizer Removal by Crop. It's actually got all the crops and vegetables that you could come up with. I downloaded it just in a few minutes yesterday. So again, Ag PhD Fertilizer Removal by Crop. And so once I downloaded that and got the list that I could put in, I clicked on alfalfa. I decided the yield goal might be 6 tons for some of you. And it'll come up with what the nutrient removal would be with a 6-ton alfalfa crop. If you went on and chose Timothy, Timothy's not on that particular chart that we had in the pocket guide. So again, here's Timothy. I put in 4 tons and it came up with the removal. So Ag PhD crop removal by nutrient removal by crop is the name of that app. Okay, we're going to hear about alfalfa weevil management. We'll hear a lot more detail about that and practical guides that you can use and resources available. I've got a video clip, but I'm not going to show it here. I'm just going to show you what it looks like with 3 slides. So on our website, under Decision Aids, we'll also put this on the alfalfa tab under the website. We took alfalfa. The left one was planted in fall of 16, but we had some problems with some of the plots not establishing. So we didn't manage that stand. We just left it there. It didn't get fertilized. It wasn't even cut properly. Planted another one the spring of 18. And so we dug these plants up last spring of 19, and we just let them grow. So here's growth in 6 days. Here's growth in 9 days. Any difference between those two? Clay, what would you rather have, the field on the left or the one on the right?
I believe I took the one.
Okay, so management is important. If you're planting alfalfa into a field that's lower pH and lower fertility, you're going to end up with something like this. So you want to make sure things are managed properly, fertilized properly, and our speakers will talk about that. And again, you can see that as a time-lapse video the growth happening over a period of days there on our website. Okay, we're going to hear about disease management. A disease that we know is an issue or can be an issue certain years, particularly wet springs, is aphanomyces in alfalfa. This is from the Alfalfa Analyst, giving a little bit more description on that. I'm just throwing this up here because this is a free download. If you go to alfalfa.org, then you can download a number of publications, but here's one of them. You could actually order and get a glossy version, but you can download it and print it or just look at it. It's got all the diseases, the nutrient deficiencies, all the kind of problems you can have with alfalfa, how to diagnose those. You can also download from that site the alfalfa variety ratings for 2020. Those of you that get the hay and forage grower, these ratings come out each November. I want to just show you an example of what you can learn from that alfalfa ratings. You get all the alfalfa varieties that are currently available in the U.S., over 200. When you look at that, in fact, we put that in the back of your proceedings so you can look at it yourself. On the far right-hand side, it gives the fall dormancy, moves into this color. This is the fall dormancy of 4, which a lot of people use in Kentucky. You see the varieties listed. You see a number of diseases that can be issues with alfalfa, so it shows you which are resistant. The HR means highly resistant. It shows you some of the insects that you can have, and it shows other conditions like ones that might be grazing tolerant or ones that might be the Roundup Ready type. So let me just show you one example. So, for example, you say, okay, I know we've had some wet springs. Maybe I've had some thinning out of stands. I want to know, how do I make sure I've got that aphanomyces root rot resistance so I don't have issues? So you look up here, aphanomyces root rot. Now, there's actually 2 races. Most of the varieties are resistant to the race 1. So you want to confirm that. But if you say, I'm still having issues, I'm having some plants come up, but then they're withering there within a few weeks. So there could be an aphanomyces race 2 to look at. And so if we go down, where you look down here, you see several are resistant to the aphanomyces race 2. We go down the list further. For example, the Maristan varieties are out here. Then you could pick out a few of those. So those are some of the information you can get. And again, we put that in the chart there in the back of your proceedings, or in the back of your proceedings. Dr. Green is going to talk about weed control. He's updated the publication. He and Travis have weed control in alfalfa and other forage legume crops. Now, that particular publication is not in your proceedings, but we've got a stack of them out there at our Kentucky Forage and Grassland Council booth. So please grab one of those, or encourage you to grab one of those. JD has a couple of other charts that are included in his proceedings talk. Gene Olson. Gene, are you in the room? Gene may be out here helping with our solid auction. Okay, Gene's coming right to the doorway to wave his hand there. He's the coordinator for the forage variety testing program in Kentucky, one of the largest in the country. I'm really thankful for all of Gene's hard work and also helping with the conference. We put in the back of your proceedings the long-term summary from the variety testing program. So anything from alfalfa yield, Roundup Ready alfalfa varieties, how those are yielding, down to the grasses, orchard grass, our grazing tolerance test. We've got a summary of how the varieties are doing. Actually, that summary includes how varieties have done over the last 15 years in testing. And when you look at that, you're going to see a chart like this. Here's the chart for orchard grass. You've got the varieties listed. I've circled a few here, mainly just to point out how you read this chart. Because having such a big summary chart, we can't have tons per acre for all the different years. So we've looked at it and we've taken an average of how they've done over time. So the long and the short is you're looking for varieties that are 100, which is average or better. So 100% means that they've been average in the test that they've been in. Above 100 means that they've been above average. So you can go back and look at how they've done in each individual test, but probably the easiest thing is to go to the far right-hand column and look at how they've done over time. One other thing to consider is we've got in parentheses beside each variety how many times they've been tested. So obviously something that's been tested 20 times or 15 times, you've got more confidence that if it's above average, then it really is above average. If it's only been in the test a couple of times, then it could still be in good shape, but you're not going to have quite as much confidence. Okay, at the back of the proceedings, I just took a picture of it. We've got some of the upcoming conferences. For example, the Novel Tall Fescue Workshop. That's a national conference that we're holding here in Lexington and other places. Krista Lay, who's one of the people helping with our registration, is the coordinator for those conferences. We've got the Kentucky Fencing School. Chris Toitz has been doing those the last few years. And we've got several locations. You can sign up online. If you wanted to register for that, and it's not easy for you to get to the internet, then check with the registration folks and we can help you with that. We've got our Kentucky Grazing School coming up in April. All the events, here's our Forage website. Any of the events that we're hosting, really up through the fall, are listed there, upcoming events. If you click on that, you can get to those events. If you want to get more information on alfalfa production, you click on this Alfalfa tab. Our Forage News comes out every month. What we've been doing the last 2 or 3 years is anybody that registers for one of our conferences, we go ahead and add you to the Forage News listserv. So you'll get that as an email. If you get that email and you don't want to be bothered with it, then there's a place there to say that you'd rather not get it. Some of you may say, I'd like to get a hard copy of that Forage News. We do mail out some hard copies. There's about 75 we mail out to. So again, if you want a hard copy, just at the registration desk, give them your address. But otherwise, we save a bit of money by sending it to your email. Here's an example of the very last Forage News, the February Forage News. Last thing I want to mention is in your proceedings, there should be this Hey Survey. Is that in your proceedings? Okay. So if you're on the Forage News listserv, you may have gotten that as not as an attachment, but as a link. This is something that we're collaborating with the University of Arkansas and 12 other states in the Southeast. They just like to get more information on how people are producing hay, how they're managing it, how, the kind of time it's taking them. Both just to have the information, but also to be able to better develop extension programs, both within each of our states and across state lines. So if you don't mind, before you leave here today, unless you've already done it online, just go through and just check those boxes. It won't take you but a few minutes, and then you can leave that at the registration desk. That'll be very helpful for us and also very helpful collaboratively throughout the Southeast. Okay, now let's get started into our formal part of the program with the different speakers. Our goal with this conference, the goal with this conference every year is to be practical, to be learning, and so we hope it will be. We hope you can go home today with maybe not 10 things to do, but 1 or 2 that can be better for your operation. In fact, I'd encourage you to not be overwhelmed with all the different talks and all the different information, but think about what are 1 or 2 things that I can do to improve my operation. So we're going to hopefully give you those practical things. Hopefully we'll give you a few things that you kind of say, whoa, I hadn't thought about that. You might get a few things that you say, actually, I don't really understand what they're talking about. They're over my head. That's okay to be stretched a little bit every so often. There'll probably be a couple of things that you'll say, I don't agree with that. I don't believe that's true. So when the end of their talk and they ask for questions, then raise your hand and say, I'm just not sure about that. We want to learn. Don't feel bad to challenge us. If you feel embarrassed to do that, then go up to the speaker afterwards and just kind of say, tell me what you're talking about. I don't really agree. So looking forward to all these presentations.